One of my next guests says that no matter how much we look, there's one key document that will not be in this batch of files because he says it was never even given to the National Archives in the first place. James Johnston is the author of Murder, Inc., the CIA under John F. Kennedy. He says a transcript exists of the first one-on-one conversation between President Lyndon B. Johnson and then CIA Director John McCone. After Johnson took office following JFK's assassination, it would be a crucial conversation. If that's the case, the transcript could shed support or undercut the conspiracy theory that Cuba or the CIA itself was somehow involved in killing JFK. We're also joined once again by investigative journalist and lawyer Gerald Posner. He's the author of Case Closed, Lee Harvey Oswald and the Assassination of JFK. Welcome to you both. Okay, James, tell me about this transcript. What do you think is in it of this phone call, this conversation between LBJ and the director of the CIA at the time, and why isn't it in the National Archives?
Well, thank you for having me. The document is a memorandum of the record. John McCone always wrote memorandum for the record of any conversation he had with the president. And that memorandum was not given over to the National Archives and is not available. We do know that they talked about Cuba, that President Johnson asked him how they were going to get rid of Castro in Cuba, and that's all we know. And I suspect it's about an hour-long conversation they had at Lyndon Johnson's private house, two men all alone, 6 days after the assassination.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. How soon after the assassination? Obviously, 6 days after the assassination, he's going to ask the head of the CIA, what do you know about who killed our president?
Precisely.
All right, Gerald. So wait, before I go to Gerald, James, why? So you obviously have seen something that says they talked about Cuba and replacing Castro, but that's it. Where's that document?
Yeah, the document was shown to historians at the State Department in 1997. They have a statutory obligation to write about foreign policy, and so they referenced that memorandum, so they saw it.
Okay, but it's not in the document dump that came out today. Gerald, what do you know about this? Have you heard about this conversation, about the fact that the transcript of it is missing?
I don't know if it's missing because, James is assuming that at the same time McCone always made a memo of every meeting he had. So he must have made a memo of this. It would be interesting to know what the head of the CIA said to Lyndon Johnson.
Sure
I don't
would
know
be.
I know, but I don't know what it would have provided about the assassination. I guess the question for James is, James, you believe that there was, two Oswalds? An imposter Oswald?
No. I believe Oswald committed I agree with you on most of the things.
Right, but
let me answer one of your questions, though. We do know the exact document exists because the State Department historians saw it in 1997 and wrote about it. So there was a memorandum. It does exist, and it's never been turned over to the National Archives.
Where would it be?
Well, presumably at the CIA.
What do you think, Gerald?
Or otherwise destroyed. Look, I've talked about the fact that the CIA may well have destroyed some of the evidence that it had about surveillance on Oswald in Mexico City. I think the one thing that I do agree with on James, that we may disagree on aspects of the case, but neither of us believes that if there was a large conspiracy to kill the president, that the evidence of it is going to be found in the release of files from the National Archives.
Yeah.
The conspirators did not send those papers over to the National Archives. They would have either retained them, kept them, or somehow destroyed them. They're not sitting over there waiting for President Trump to say, give them all out, declassify them, and now we're all going through them one by one.
Yeah, if you're going to do something as audacious as that, you're going to cover it up. You're not going to let the National Archives sit with the proof of it sitting there. It just feels like one of two possibilities could be true, at least with these documents, that either the CIA was too incompetent to know what Lee Harvey Oswald was up to, or it knew about it and didn't do enough to stop him. So which of those things is true? Gerald, you first.
So I think it's just incompetence. I think the CIA had been looking at Oswald since he defected to the Soviet Union in 1959. It was in the newspapers he had. Not many Marines went over to the Soviet Union in the heart of the Cold War. Then they had a file open on him. The FBI did as well. The real question becomes 6 weeks before the assassination, when Oswald goes to Mexico City and visits the Soviet embassy and the Cubans and wants to go and join the Castro Revolution. What did the CIA learn about him then? What surveillance did they have on those two embassies? Did they realize that Oswald was so unhinged in his behavior? And
Yeah.
if so, why didn't they tell the FBI when he came back into America 10 days later? Because that might have made the assassination preventable.
All right, James, you get the final word, 10 seconds.
Well, I think another interesting thing about this Mexico City trip was that Oswald met with someone in the KGB who was an assassin for the KGB.
All right.
I don't think there's anything relevant to that, but that's happened.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.